guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. I want to welcome you to the Would You Be Mine Hop. We are sharing inspiration for the upcoming Valentine holiday with projects that incorporate wood. We hope that you find each project as lovely as your best Valentine memory. At the top of the description box, you'll find a link to the next person in the lineup. I hope that you take time to watch all the hop videos because we love your comments and thumbs up. If you aren't already a subscriber, I hope you consider subscribing and click on the little bell so you won't miss any of my uploads. You can also use hashtag WouldYouBeMine to find all the videos in this hop. Some of us might be offering prizes on our channel, so be sure to pay attention for details and check out my description box for all of the details. I accidentally went a little overboard with my project, but I'll keep this video fairly short so you have time to check out the rest of the lineup. I've had these little boxes of heart table scatter that I picked up at Target in my stash for a couple of years. You know how it is when you're out shopping and you think, I know what I could make with that, and into the cart it goes. Then it basically sits on a shelf. Well, since today's theme is using wood, I knew I had to pull these out. And the first thing that I wanted to do was make some Valentine themed planner clips. Now, since I didn't want to leave them as plain wood or plain white, I experimented with a few ways to dress them up a bit. The first one is using a new stamp set that I recently picked up from In Love Arts and some Hero Arts ink. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp one of those images in that ink on one of the white hearts that I've got sitting here. The color that I'm using is Red Royal. Now I like teal colors too, so I first started off with trying some of those blue-green shades, and because they were so light they really didn't show up well on that heart, so I went ahead and went with this darker red, and I think it turned out perfect. Kind of says it makes my heart sing. Next, I'm taking some paper clips that I picked up from Amazon. I've had these also in my stash for a while, mostly because at one point I was making tons of planner paper clips, but come on, you can only use so many in your planner, and you can only give away so many too. So I'm doing some of these today, and I think I'm going to give them out to some of my friends for Valentine's Day. Anyway, I'm just adhering the paper clip on the back of that heart with some hot glue. Now you want to make sure that both of those curved parts where the paper clip opens are facing down, otherwise your paper clip's not going to open when you want to use it. And then I'm just adding a little punched out circle to the back of that. Now for some of the other hearts, I went ahead and dressed them up a little bit differently instead of just doing the stamping. So I grabbed some Craft Smart paint that I'd gotten from, I believe it was from Michael's a while back, and colored up, just painted some of those hearts with that and let them dry. Then I decided I'm going to take out some other mediums that I really haven't played with. The first one I'm trying out is some gloss gel. Now I am not an expert on any of these types of mediums. I'm pretty much just experimenting with this to see how it's going to work. So I'm taking a palette knife and just spreading some of that gel down on my craft mat there, on my glass craft mat, and then adding a little bit of the paint to it, and then I'm going to mix that together. Now what it does, and what I've seen it do before, is it kind of extends how much paint you actually need to use. It does make it so it lasts longer. Don't know how that works when it comes to pricing on the gel compared to the paint, but this does make it have a kind of a shiny instead of a matte finish when you're done, and this is a little thicker than the regular paint. So I'm going ahead and just adding some of that. I had made this real pretty pastel purple color and adding that to the top of one of my hearts. Not really trying to smooth it because I do want to kind of have a little dimension. Then I did the same kind of thing with that pink paint that I had, and then for the third one I decided, okay, I'm going to try mixing these together and see if I can get a marble effect. Now if I hadn't mixed it quite so well, probably would have turned out better, but I still like the color that turned out. It's kind of a purplish pink color, not quite as dark of a purple, not quite as light of a pink, but it turned out really pretty in the end. And then as an afterthought, I decided, let's see how it would work with glitter. Now, I don't use loose glitter much in my crafting, mostly because it makes a mess and it has a hard time sticking to whatever adhesive it is that I tried using in the past. It seemed to work out pretty good on this. Now, this next bit that I'm doing, I'm trying some Dreamweaver translucent embossing paste. It's thicker than the gloss gel, so it should add some more dimension than the gloss gel or the acrylic paint's going to use, and it does have a nice glossy finish. Now, I looked up Dreamweaver and it looks like this specific kind, I haven't been able to find it anywhere, so I don't know if it's available, but I do know Ranger makes something similar, so that should probably work just as well for this. So what I've done here is I put some blue paint and a little touch of yellow, basically a 2-to-1 ratio, because I wanted to try to create that nice teal color that I love so much. And I really love the way that this is turning out. The color is just so pretty. So I'm going ahead and I'm adding that to my little wooden heart there. And I'm not really smoothing it out much. This is a texture paste, so it is designed to give you all those nice ridges and such when you're using it like for painting or whatever. I've read that it's kind of to help it look more like oil painting, so it keeps the brush strokes, it keeps the palette knife strokes, all of that. So I went ahead and covered one, and of course I decided I needed more. And I decided for this one I'm going to do something a little different too. I'm going to go ahead and try it with a stencil. So I grabbed this stencil from Ranger. It's the Heart's Edge, I believe. I'll have a link to that as well as all the other supplies I'm using down below. And again, those are affiliate links, so anytime you use one of those, it does help my channel out a bit and does not cost you any extra. Anyway, I had made a bunch of that teal colored texture paste, I guess. I made a bunch of it and I am just spreading that over the stencil onto those little hearts. I went ahead and put 4 of them out there. Also, one thing that is nice is this stencil still had some of that that adhesive on the back from when we used it for watercoloring a few weeks ago, so it held perfectly onto those little hearts. Now, this stuff takes forever to dry, so while it's drying I'm going ahead and just making a card as well. This piece of paper is just a scrap from some paper pad that I have no idea which one, and I decided it was about the right size to do a slimline. So I'm using some cardstock. This is some heavyweight cardstock from Michaels to create my card base. So as normally I am cutting that down to 7 inches wide and then folding it a half at 3.5 inches. So the card measures 3.5 by 8.5, and that I feel is the perfect size to fit in a number 10 envelope, or I will probably later on make an envelope for it to go in. And this card, I'm going to pretty much keep it simple. I am just using those hearts that I did some painting on as my embellishments. So just trying to decide, how do I want it, and pretty much have decided on the layout of those little hearts, and then I'm going to just go ahead and adhere everything down. To adhere the paper down to the card base, I'm just going to use my dot liner adhesive. Like I said, this one is a real, basically a simple, easy card to make with any kind of embellishments that you've got. And I'm just lining that up right in the center so it has that little bit of white space all the way around. And then I will adhere those little hearts down. I don't know what all types of adhesive will hold the hearts in place like I want, so I am going back to that hot glue that I was using earlier. I figured that will definitely hold it in place, and don't know if our glitter glue would have done it, so I may have to experiment with that later. But I went ahead and adhered all those little hearts down. I've got 4 across the front, and then of course I need a sentiment, so I am grabbing my pre-made sentiment envelope here that I've got, and I'm going to take out a couple of my foiled sentiments to see what I want to use for this one. I've got happy birthday, and then I've got these little ones that say hello friend. And I think I'm decided to go ahead and go with the happy birthday sentiment. I felt that since it was a little larger, it would actually look better on that card. Now to adhere it down, I'm going to just use some foam tape. I am going to make sure that I've got part of the back not covered because I don't want it to be bumped up too much over those hearts. Now the hearts are a little thicker than the foam tape is, so it will be a little bit off, but I think that it turned out just fine anyway. Nobody is really going to notice that it's not completely level other than me. So I'm going ahead and just taking all of that release paper off, and then I will add my little sentiment right there in the middle of the card. Of course, we do need a little more adhesive because we need the sentiment to stick to the hearts that it's going to be overlapping. So I grabbed my art glitter glue, added that to those spots and to the back of the foam tape just to give it a little extra, strength there. And then I'm going to go ahead and place that down. Took my reverse tweezers so I could make sure I get perfect placement of that pretty sentiment. And that card is finished. Now back to those little hearts that we did before. I let them dry overnight because it does take quite a while for this texture paste and paint and all to dry on there. And the first thing I need to do is trim off all of the excess places where, on these specific ones, the ones that I did the stencil on, there's some of that texture paste that kind of hung over the edge when I did it, and if I had tried cleaning it off at the time that I was doing it, I would have made a humongous mess. Now, one way you could get away with not having that happen would be to tape the edges. I didn't think of that in time when I was doing the video, so I did not do that, but that is just a tip for you for later. You could always use some painter's tape or masking tape and clean that and prevent it from going over the edge like that. Now that all of those are cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and turn those into planner paper clips too. And just as I did before, I'm grabbing my hot glue gun and some little circles that I'm going to just punch out of some scraps. The punch that I'm using is this one is a 5/8 inch, but you could use any size that you want as long as it doesn't show from the front of your paper clip, because of course you don't want it to show. And the only reason I'm using those pieces is just to cover up some of the ugliness that is left by that hot glue. You don't have to. This is, personal preference, but for most of mine I do go ahead and cover the back with that. So just put that paper clip in place, position my heart to make sure that it's lined up straight the way I want it, and then I add that little piece of paper, that paper circle to the back there. And I went ahead and finished up all of those little hearts with it. Oh my goodness, now I have got a ton. And it worked just fine on the ones with the little hearts that I did with the stencil too. Just line that paper clip up on the back, make sure that it is all straight, and then add that little circle to cover the back of the paper clip and most of that hot glue. Now, I don't know if other types of adhesive would work for this. I do know that hot glue is pretty quick and easy, and as you can tell, I did a ton of these things. That finishes up my project for today's #WouldyouBeMine video hop. I hope you are inspired to use some wood embellishments in your Valentine's Day crafting, and I would love to see what you create. So come join my Facebook group, Crafting with Debbie, and show us your creations. I've left a link to the group in the description down below. Be sure to check out all the other crafters in the hop because I know they will have some inspirational projects for you to see, and some of them will have some giveaways too. Here are some other videos that you may be interested in. Thank you so much for dropping by, and remember, if I can make it, you can too.